Chief Velox stood at his usual spot in the Xylaxian Security Corporation's command center, his three eyes twitching simultaneously, a sure sign that his legendary patience was being tested. Again. The pristine space station, orbital platform ZX-729, had held a perfect security record for the past 7 stellar cycles. Well, perfect, if you didn't count the incident with the escaped therapeutic companion blobs last month, but Velox had successfully argued that technically fell under custodial services. Asterisk had asterisk being the operative word. Computer, Velox's voice carried the weary tone of someone who'd repeated the same command far too many times. Replay security feed from Sector 7, time index 0830. The holoscreen flickered to life, showing what should have been a routine morning patrol. Instead, it displayed their newest human guard, Jack Thompson, rolling dramatically between cargo containers while humming what he claimed was necessary action music. Remind me again, Velox turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Carax, whose chitinous exoskeleton clicked nervously. Why we hired these humans? Carax pulled up a datapad, mandibles twitching. According to the quarterly budget review, sir, human guards are 63.7% more cost-effective than our standard security drones. Something about not requiring weekly quantum calibrations and being able to work through electromagnetic disruptions. Ah yes, budget cuts. Velox's middle eye narrowed while his outer eyes scanned the continuing security footage, because apparently the most secure facility in the Orion arm needs to tighten its belt. The air quotes he made with his upper appendages were unnecessarily aggressive. On screen, Jack Thompson had progressed to practicing what he called tactical barrel rolls past the biochemical research wing. A group of Zentorian scientists stopped their work to watch, their tentacles writhing in what might have been either amusement or horror. Nobody could ever really tell with Zentorians. Sir, Carax ventured carefully, he did catch that maintenance worker trying to steal quantum processor chips last week by dropping from a ventilation shaft while shouting, "Yippee-ki-yay, Velox caught himself, all three eyes blinking rapidly. I don't even know what that means. The human claims it's a cultural reference required for all successful security operations. Carax consulted his notes. Something about a human named McLean who saved a structure called Nakatomi Plaza. Velox's exasperation manifested as a slight purple tinge to his usually blue complexion. And the other guards? They've started taking notes, sir. The security feed switched to another camera, showing 3 of Velox's most experienced Xylaxian guards attempting to replicate Thompson's barrel roll. Their naturally rigid exoskeletons made it less of a roll and more of an awkward sideways shuffle. Perfect, Velox muttered. 7 cycles of impeccable service, and now my security team thinks they're starring in what Thompson calls Die Hard in Space. A notification pinged on the main screen. The next batch of human recruits had arrived at the docking bay. Velox watched as Jack Thompson greeted them, already demonstrating what appeared to be the proper way to dive away from imaginary explosions. Sir, Carax's mandibles twitched in what might have been a suppressed laugh. Should I update our security protocols to include these new, tactical maneuvers? Velox stared at the screen where Thompson was now teaching the new recruits something called the hero walk, which apparently required them to move in slow motion while not looking at explosions behind them. There weren't any actual explosions, of course, but Thompson had helpfully brought along sound effects. No, Lieutenant, Velox sighed deeply, a sound that seemed to come from all 4 of his lungs. But do start a log. I have a feeling we're going to need extensive documentation when corporate asks why our security team has requisitioned sunglasses and leather jackets for tactical purposes. As if on cue, Thompson's voice echoed through the security feed. Remember, folks, in space, no one can hear you be awesome. Velox's color shifted to a deeper purple. It was going to be a long stellar cycle. It started, as these things usually do, with a perfectly routine cargo inspection on a perfectly normal day. At least, it would have been routine if Jack Thompson hadn't watched Mission Impossible the night before. There's something suspicious about these crates, Lieutenant Carax, Jack whispered dramatically. Despite standing in a well-lit, completely empty cargo bay, he was pressed against a container marked Fresh Produce in 3 different galactic languages, wearing the sunglasses he'd somehow convinced procurement were essential security equipment. Carax's mandibles clicked in what was becoming a nervous tick. The manifest clearly shows these are shipments of Centaurian slug melons for the station's cafeteria. Exactly, Jack pushed himself off the container with unnecessary force, executing a perfect combat roll that took him to, approximately, where he'd been standing before. What better way to smuggle contraband than hiding it among the most innocent of cargo? The scanning systems show— The scanners can be fooled, Jack interrupted, already pulling out what appeared to be climbing gear from his utility belt. But they can't fool— dramatic pause, human intuition. Carax's antennae drooped. Did you just say dramatic pause out loud? But Jack was already in motion, having somehow rigged a makeshift zipline between two cargo stacks. Through the security feed, Chief Velox watched in mounting horror as his once dignified cargo inspection turned into what Thompson would later describe as Ocean's 11 meets Aliens. All units, Jack's voice crackled over the comm system. Operation Fruit Ninja is now in effect. Velox's third eye started twitching. Operation what? Over the next 2 hours, the cargo bay became a theater of the absurd. Jack had somehow convinced 3 Zylaxian guards to create a perimeter of drama, their words, not his, which mostly involved them walking slowly in formation while wearing sunglasses. 2 more guards were stationed in the ventilation system, despite Carax's repeated protests that their exoskeletons made stealth crawling both impossible and unnecessarily noisy. Thompson, Velox's voice carried the weight of several stellar cycles worth of patience reaching its end. The cargo needs to be cleared in the next 30 minutes. Can't rush perfection, Chief, Jack replied, currently hanging upside down from a cargo crane. The bad guys always slip up when they think they've won. There are no bad guys. This is a shipment of produce. That's exactly what they want you to think. It was at this exact moment that Jack's elaborate network of tripwires, when had he even set those up, caught something, not in the produce containers, which were indeed full of nothing but rather pungent slug melons, but in the maintenance shaft behind them. A panel clattered to the floor, followed by a very surprised-looking Rigelian wielding what was definitely not a standard-issue maintenance tool. Aha! Jack swung down from his perimeter, somehow managing to land in a 3-point stance that he'd been practicing for weeks. The old hide behind the obvious distraction trick. Classic. The next few minutes were chaos. The Rigelian, as it turned out, was part of a sophisticated ring of quantum technology thieves who had been using the station's maintenance tunnels. They had, in fact, been quite successfully avoiding all standard security protocols right up until Jack's unnecessarily elaborate sting operation scattered their carefully planned escape routes with motion sensors he'd placed for dramatic effect. Velox stood in the aftermath, surrounded by apprehended thieves, scattered slug melons, and the lingering smell of Carax's stress-induced pheromone release. So, Jack grinned, somehow still wearing unscathed sunglasses. Should I file this under routine inspection or action-packed victory for justice? Thompson, Velox managed through clenched mouthparts. Your methods are effective, Jack offered. Unorthodox, suggested Carax. Insane, Velox finished, but his outer eyes narrowed while the middle one darted between the captured thieves and the security footage showing how Jack's random acts of action hero chaos had perfectly disrupted their escape routes. Somehow functional. All in a day's work, Chief, Jack said, already walking away with what he insisted was a heroic swagger. Sir, Carax clicked hesitantly. Should I cancel the order for the smoke grenades he requested for, dramatic entrances? Velox watched as Jack demonstrated his victory strut to a group of impressionable junior guards who were taking detailed notes. No, Lieutenant, he sighed, all 4 lungs worth of resignation. But do start a separate incident report category. We'll call it Successful Security Operations Through Improbable Human Methods. Sestium. It'll catch on, Velox muttered, already dreading tomorrow's security briefing where Jack would undoubtedly insist on recounting the incident with what he called proper action movie pacing. In the distance, they could hear Jack's voice. Remember, rookies, a true hero always has a one-liner ready. The security footage would later show that 4 Zylaxian guards immediately pulled out notepads. Velox's color shifted to that unique shade of purple that only appeared when the universe was testing his patience. Send a memo to corporate. Tell them their budget cuts have had some unexpected results. Behind him, Jack was teaching the new recruits how to properly dive through closing doors. The Crimson Nexus pirates were legendary for their methodical approach to station takeovers. They had contingency plans for their contingency plans. They'd studied Xylaxian security protocols so thoroughly they could recite them in their sleep. They were prepared for everything. Everything except Jack Thompson and Maya Chen. The attack began during what the humans called the most cliché time possible, the night shift. The pirates had timed their assault perfectly, deploying electromagnetic scramblers to disable security systems and communication arrays. Finally! Jack's voice crackled through the emergency backup comms, sounding way too excited for someone in the middle of a hostile takeover. A worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary. Thompson, Valox hissed from the command center. This is not the time for dut. Chief, Maya cut in. Trust me when I say this is exactly the time for movie quotes. Jack, you thinking what I'm thinking? Die Hard in space, the real deal. You had me at Die Hard. The pirates had expected resistance. They'd planned for standard security responses, defensive formations, and textbook counter-assault measures. What they got instead was pure, unfiltered Hollywood chaos. The security feeds operating on backup power showed scattered scenes that looked like they'd been lifted straight from every action movie ever made. Maya was sliding across the polished floor of the main corridor, dual stun batons flying while somehow managing to shout, "Yippee-ki-yay, space cowboys!" Jack had apparently been waiting his entire career for this moment. He emerged from a ventilation shaft, because of course he did, directly into a group of pirates, announcing his presence with what he later insisted was the perfect one-liner. "Welcome to the party, pal. I hear space is lovely this time of year." Valox watched in a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration as his transformed security force put their weeks of action hero training to unexpected use. Carax led a team of Xylaxian guards in what could only be described as a synchronized assault sequence, complete with the slow-motion walking they'd been practicing. "Status report," Valox demanded, his three eyes tracking multiple security feeds simultaneously. "You're gonna love this, Chief," Maya's voice came through between what sounded suspiciously like martial arts sound effects. "Remember all those unnecessary training scenarios we ran?" On screen, a group of pirates rounded a corner expecting an empty corridor based on their intel. Instead, they found three Andromean guards striking what Jack had dubbed the power pose, backlit by deliberately overloaded light panels for maximum dramatic effect. "Looks like someone One Andromean guard paused for dramatic effect, just as they'd been taught. "Forgot to knock." Did they just do the sunglasses thing?" Valox asked nobody in particular. "They've been practicing that move for weeks, sir," Carax reported proudly. The pirates' carefully planned assault continued to unravel in the face of what their leader would later describe in his detention report as security protocols that appear to have been written by a caffeinated human child with access to too many action movies. Maya and Jack had somehow managed to coordinate their efforts despite operating on opposite ends of the station. Their comm chatter sounded like a movie quote drinking game. "I feel the need for speed," Maya while using maintenance corridors as impromptu slide rails. "Game over, man, game over," Jack after successfully trapping a group of pirates in a cargo hold. "You shall not pass," a very enthusiastic Vulparian guard who'd apparently been mixing up his movie genres. The pirate leader, watching his perfect plan dissolve into chaos, made the mistake of trying to reason with them over the station's comm system. "This is ridiculous. You're supposed to be following standard security protocols." "Welcome to the party, pal," Maya and Jack somehow managed to say in perfect unison, despite being 5 decks apart. The final confrontation took place in the station's main atrium, where the remaining pirates found themselves surrounded by a security force that had turned action movie tropes into a legitimate tactical advantage. Centaurian guards emerged from steam vents. The steam was entirely for dramatic effect, courtesy of some creative environmental control programming. Arcturian officers repelled from upper levels, having insisted that taking the elevator wouldn't be cinematically appropriate. And in the center of it all, Maya and Jack met up for what they would later describe as the buddy cop reunion scene we were born to play. "Took you long enough," Maya grinned, taking up position back-to-back with Jack. "Had to make an entrance," Jack shrugged, somehow still wearing his tactical sunglasses. "You know how it is. Shall we show them how we do things downtown? This is a space station. Work with me here, Jack." Velox watched as his two human security officers, surrounded by a security force that had embraced action movie logic with religious fervor, proceeded to coordinate the most unnecessarily dramatic, yet undeniably effective takedown in station history. The pirates never stood a chance. In the aftermath, as detention units were being filled and damage reports filed, Velox stood in his command center, trying to process exactly what he'd just witnessed. "Sir," Carax approached, mandibles twitching with barely contained excitement, "the pirates' leader is requesting to file a formal complaint." "About?" "He claims our security methods are, and I quote, utterly insane and completely unfair. Also, he wants to know what movie the maintenance shaft maneuver was from, for academic purposes." Velox stared at the security feed showing his security team, humans and aliens alike, helping with cleanup while still maintaining what Maya called proper action hero posture. "Tell him," Velox said, his color shifting to what might have been amusement, "that's classified information." Somewhere in the background they could hear Jack starting a slow clap. Incredibly, it caught on. "We're going to need a bigger security training budget," Velox muttered, watching as his entire security force struck dramatic poses for the station's official incident documentation. "For better equipment?" Carax asked, hopefully. "No," Velox sighed, "for sunglasses. Apparently they're now part of our tactical doctrine." If Velox thought Jack Thompson was a handful, the arrival of Maya Chen proved that the universe had a particularly twisted sense of humor. She stepped off the transport ship, took one look at Jack's tactical sunglasses, and immediately pulled out her own pair. "Let me guess," she said, sizing up the security team, "you're the loose cannon who doesn't play by the rules?" Jack's face lit up like a supernova. "And you must be the by-the-book officer who's about to learn that sometimes rules need to be broken." "Oh no," Velox muttered, all three eyes widening in horror. "There's two of them." Their first security drill together went exactly as well as anyone who's ever watched a buddy cop movie might expect. What should have been a simple evacuation exercise turned into what Maya dubbed training day meets speed meets. "You know what? Just roll with it." "Officer Chen," Velox's voice crackled over the comm, "why are you and Thompson conducting the evacuation drill through the maintenance shafts?" "Because, Chief," Maya replied, while somehow maintaining a perfect power slide around a corner, "the bad guys will expect us to use the main corridors." "This is an evacuation drill. There are no bad guys." "That's exactly what makes it the perfect time to practice," Jack chimed in, executing what he called a tactical leap over a surprised maintenance bot. "The element of surprise works both ways." The security feed showed Maya and Jack coordinating their movements with an efficiency that would have been impressive if it wasn't so unnecessarily dramatic. They developed their own set of hand signals, most of which seemed to be borrowed from various action movies. Worse still, the alien guards were starting to emulate them. Velox watched in mounting despair as Carax, his most logical and level-headed lieutenant, attempted what Maya called a power move, spinning around corners with his weapon drawn. The fact that his exoskeleton made this look more like a malfunctioning cleaning drone didn't seem to deter him. "Status report," Velox demanded, hoping against hope for some semblance of normality. "You're gonna want to see this, Chief." Maya's voice carried that distinctive tone that meant something either very good or very bad was about to happen. "We've got a situation in Training Room 3. The security feed switched to show what had once been a standard training session. Now it looked like the set of every action movie ever made. Junior guards were practicing diving over barriers while shouting one-liners. A group of Andromean security officers, whose species was known for their rigid adherence to protocol, were earnestly practicing what Jack called the cool guy walk. "Watch and learn, rookies," Maya called out, demonstrating a completely unnecessary but admittedly impressive series of combat roles. "When in doubt, make it look good." "Style points matter," Jack added, high-fiving a thoroughly confused but enthusiastic Zentorian guard. The most alarming part, station security metrics were actually improving. Response times were up, primarily because guards were now treating every call like the climax of an action movie. Contraband seizures had increased, mainly because the unpredictable patrol routes, or as Maya called them, dramatic entrance paths, kept smugglers off balance. "Sir," Carax reported, trying very hard not to show how proud he was of his newly perfected slow-motion walking technique, Security breaches are down 47% since implementing the humans' methods. You mean since our security team started treating every day like a Michael Bay production? Velox's middle eye twitched. Actually, sir, Carax clicked excitedly, Maya says our style is more John Woo, something about having more class. The security feed showed Maya teaching a group of Arcturian guards the art of the dramatic weapon draw, while Jack demonstrated proper posing techniques. A Vulparian security officer, whose species was renowned for their stealth capabilities, was practicing what appeared to be action hero one-liners in front of a mirror. I'm too old for this shift, the Vulparian muttered, then turned to Maya. Was that the correct usage? The line is, I'm too old for this shit, Maya corrected kindly, but we'll work with what we've got. Meanwhile, Jack had somehow requisitioned a sound system that played what he called essential background music during patrols. Velox had tried to deny the request, but apparently it fell under necessary tactical equipment according to some obscure regulation that Maya had mysteriously discovered. Remember, Jack's voice echoed through the station, accompanied by what he claimed was classic action movie soundtrack material. A true hero always works better with a partner, and always looks cool doing it, Maya added as they demonstrated synchronized corridor sweeping techniques to an enthusiastic audience. Velox watched as his once pristine, protocol-driven security force transformed into something that looked like it had been directed by Quentin Tarantino. The worst part? He was starting to understand the appeal. Just yesterday he'd caught himself humming what Jack called epic background music during a routine inspection. Sir, Carax interrupted his thoughts, should I update the security manual to include Maya's rules of engagement for maximum dramatic effect? Velox stared at the feed showing his security team, now a bizarre but effective mix of alien efficiency and human action movie drama. Maya and Jack were leading a training session they called Die Hard Xenomorphic Edition, complete with improvised obstacle courses and what appeared to be choreographed combat sequences. Add it as an appendix, he finally conceded, all three eyes closing in resignation. But make sure to note that the slow-motion walking is optional during actual emergencies. Actually, sir, Carax clicked nervously, Maya insists it's mandatory for proper intimidation tactics. In the background they could hear Maya's voice, remember partners, if you're not looking cool while saving the day, you're only doing half the job. Velox's color shifted to a shade that perfectly matched his growing acceptance of the absurd. Fine, but tell Thompson that his request for a personal theme song is still denied. About that, sir, Carax began, but Velox had already turned away, muttering something about needing a vacation. Or, as Maya would put it, a dramatic character development subplot. The Corporate Review Board of Xylaxian Security Corporation wasn't quite sure what to make of the incident report from station ZX729. The holovid footage before them showed what appeared to be the most successful and theatrical defense against a pirate raid in corporate history. Chief Velox, the board chairperson, a particularly stern-looking Xylaxian elder, leaned forward. Would you care to explain why your security team's incident report includes a section labeled Best One-Liners? Velox stood at parade rest, his color cycling through various shades of professional discomfort. It's part of our new integrated human-alien tactical doctrine, the one that Officer Chen calls Lethal Weapon 7 Space Cops, another board member asked, consulting their notes. That's the working title, Velox admitted. Officer Thompson is lobbying for Die Hard Zero Gravity. The footage continued playing, showing Maya Chen surfing down a corridor on a maintenance cart while simultaneously disarming 3 pirates. The audio picked up her shouting, "Sorry, boys! Looks like your space pirate career just got spaced." And this unorthodox methodology has improved station security, the chairperson asked, trying not to look impressed and failing. Velox activated his datapad. Security breaches are down 73%, contraband seizures up 89%, personnel morale at an all-time high, and, he paused, still not quite believing it himself, we've become something of a deterrent. A deterrent? Apparently word has spread that our station's security forces are, to quote one frustrated smuggler, completely insane action movie fanatics who might repel from anywhere at any time while spouting terrible puns. The board reviewed more footage, Carax leading a team of Zelaxian guards in what was labeled as synchronized tactical cool walking, a Vulparian officer practicing catchphrases in front of a mirror, and Jack Thompson teaching a masterclass in dramatic entry techniques 101. "And you support this evolution in security protocols?" the chairperson asked. Valox thought about the past few months, the chaos, the drama, the inexplicably effective results. As Officer Chen would say, he found himself saying, "Sometimes you have to break the rules to make them work better." The entire board stared at him. "Did you just quote an action movie?" one member asked incredulously. Valox's color shifted to mortified purple. "I may have picked up some human habits." The station's reputation spread quickly through the sector. Smugglers avoided it. Pirates warned each other about the crazy humans and their even crazier alien partners. Security corporations sent observers to study what they called the Hollywood Protocol. A month after the pirate incident, Valox stood in his command center, watching his now infamous security team in action. Maya and Jack were teaching a new batch of recruits the art of tactical banter, while Carax demonstrated the proper way to dramatically cock a weapon, safety on, of course. "Sir," a junior officer approached, "we've got an unauthorized shuttle attempting to dock in Bay 3. Valox found himself reaching for a pair of sunglasses before he even realized what he was doing. He stopped, stared at his hand in horror, then put them on anyway. "Well," he said, channeling what Jack called main character energy, "looks like someone didn't get the memo about our new security features." The entire command center crew turned to stare at him. Did the chief just make an action movie reference?" someone whispered. "On purpose," another added. Valox straightened his uniform, adjusted his sunglasses, and headed for the door. Just before it closed behind him, he couldn't help himself. "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker," he caught himself, all three eyes widening behind his shades. "I mean, initiate standard security protocols." But everyone had heard it, and somewhere in the station, Jack Thompson wiped away a proud tear, while Maya Chen slow-clapped in appreciation. The Hollywood Protocol was officially complete, and if the security footage that day showed the chief of security walking a little slower than necessary, with maybe just a hint of that signature action hero swagger, well, that was strictly classified information.